Hey everyone, and welcome to this Brightspace Assessment PD series. We are looking at our 5th session, I believe, and in this session we are going to be covering the portfolio tool. Now, the portfolio tool can be used to gather student work and provide feedback in there. You can also attach curriculum expectations and rubrics to help with assessment purposes in there, and that will all funnel into the expectations progress page, and when we get to it, the mastery view. Okay, so let's jump in there. As you can see right now, I'm inside a course and my name is Andy Bernard. I'm going to click on the portfolio icon in the navbar, Portfolio Students. And what this is going to allow Andy to do is choose from any of the courses that he's currently inside of and add to that portfolio. So we'll see here this Brightspace Assessment PD Demo LG for learning goals. We'll open up that one. You'll notice we can add to portfolio. Keep in mind, this is from the student perspective, how they would add. They can either drag and drop or browse files on their computer, or they can upload from Google Drive or Office 365. I'm going to select Browse here, and I'll upload this NARDPUP. Now that's as easy as it is to upload the evidence. The evidence is in there. Teacher can go in and see it now, but Andy can now do some other things with that. You'll notice on the bottom here, you can see it's not shared with parents or guardians yet. There's no feedback. It's not been categorized, and it's not spotlighted. Well, all of those things can be done if you just check those off quickly, right? You can check your feedback by clicking on these things. I'm going to go back. You can share it or not share it with parents or guardians if we had Brightspace for Parents working. You can also hover over this with the 3 dots and select Remove Spotlight or Delete. So if you don't want that anymore, you can remove the spotlight or you can delete that as a student. Now, if you go into the actual piece of evidence, this is where Andy can put in some additional feedback or some reflections. I shouldn't say feedback. Feedback is what the teachers are going to provide. He can put down his reflections. So he can also change the name. So if you want to rename the evidence, we'll say NARDPUP Tattoo, save that. And he's able to upload an audio file here if he has one recorded. Now, we don't have one recorded on the computer. If they are using the app to record the evidence, then you can do that right within the app. So you don't have to upload a file. You can actually just record one in there. You can type in a reflection here. So I'll say, this is the tattoo I will get if my employees finish their work. Select add, and then you'll see that is now a reflection that's saved inside there that the teacher will be able to go in and see. Now, in terms of categories, these are categories that if we created them at the class level by the teacher, then you'd be able to add a category and place it in there. So maybe that's something like Unit 1, Learning Goal 1, whatever it is. Okay, that's essentially all Andy can do with this portfolio. Very quick and easy. It's not that difficult. So you can add in images. You could also add in files. So let's say we want to load in a Word document, and we upload that Word document right inside there. He can open it up. He can still add in the reflections and categorize it, upload an audio file if that's what you'd like. Now, it does give a preview of this file right inside here, which is great. So you can actually see that. It doesn't load it in just like the image would, but it still does give that preview. You can open it up full screen right inside there, and now you can kind of go through and have that in your portfolio. So once you've done that, again, as a student, all of these files are going to be saved inside this portfolio within that specific class. Okay. Now, if you are using the app, there is a link to log into the app. You can learn how to download the app from the Google Play or the App Store, and then you can log into it by using that QR code. Or once you've logged into that app, you can print off what's called your class pass cards. And when you do that, these are going to be all different QR codes that you can use in the app to scan to access your portfolio in a different class. So this would be the expectations class, the learning goals class, these different classes. These are all unique QR codes to those classes so that when you scan them with the app, it will bring you into that specific class so that you can upload your different evidence. Okay. Andy can also look through his different portfolio evidence by changing his classes by this drop down here. You can go into any of these other classes. For our intents and purposes right now, we don't need to go to another class. We could also change this and look, instead of by courses, by evidence. So this would kind of pull in all of the different evidence that Andy has submitted into his portfolio so that it's not just looking at one specific course. Okay, so it depends on how the student really wants to view this. They can also change from tiles to details this way as well. And it gives a little bit easier viewability depending on if that's what the student wants. Okay, you can look at archive portfolios or active evidence. There's a lot of things that they can do. Now, this was all being done just so that we can show the teacher perspective of this. So let's go back to the course itself, and I'm going to stop impersonating Andy. And once the course loads up, notice you'll see a different icon here. It's actually called just portfolio. It doesn't have portfolio students, but when you impersonate a student, then you can see the student version of this. When a teacher clicks on this portfolio link, it's going to open up a list of all of the students in the class with their different portfolio items. And notice you have the same kind of look and feel for this as well. So notice you can view this by students, where you'll see all the different students, or you can view it by evidence. So that's just all the evidence that has been submitted in. So one is all students, the other is all evidence. You can see Pam and Andy are the only ones who have submitted evidence inside here. You can also go in and view this by tiles or by details. So that works in the evidence section, and it also works in the student section. You can either view them all in tiles, or you can view them by their details. Either way, you can do all of that. Now, depending on the settings you're looking at, you can use these friendly Funster avatars instead of profile pictures. If we do that, and I click Save, then the class pass cards that you would print out would not actually show their picture. They would show these little Funster, monster little icons. Okay, but if you turn that back off, then you'll see the actual profiles of your students on those class pass cards. Also in the settings, you can decide if you as a teacher want to approve the evidence before it's saved to their portfolio. Now, you can do that specifically if they're just using it from a classroom device or a family device mode using the app, or if it's done from the web. You can actually choose all of these, or you can leave all of them unchecked. It's totally up to you as a teacher. If you're using shared devices like in a classroom, I would probably make sure that that needs to be approved by the teacher, but the other ones I think are usually fine. But if you want to be safe, you can approve all the evidence so that you see everything going past your eyes. Okay. Now this is also where, as a teacher, you can create your own categories. So if you want to say, well, this is math, and this is grammar, you can create those categories within your class, and then students can then categorize their portfolio items inside those categories. So that's all saved within the settings of this. Okay, now what we can then do is we can go in and approve evidence based on our students. Now, because we didn't change the settings until now, all the evidence was already approved. But if there was unapproved evidence, it would show up here, and you could click through the students and see which ones need evidence to be approved. Otherwise, we can go back to the portfolio here, and we can now go into the actual evidence and see what we can do with it. So we'll look at Andy here, and we'll see that there's two different pieces of evidence inside here, right? Those are the ones that we just added. So we'll look at the Nard Pup tattoo, and we can see now, okay, what did Andy have to say? Nothing, he didn't upload a file. This is Andy's thoughts here, so we can see that. Now notice I'm in here as the teacher, but when I type a reflection inside here, and I select add, it actually looks as though Andy is the one who has posted that. So if you are the one as a teacher who are going in, you can actually ask Andy a question and type their answer into that reflection piece, which is pretty nice. Now that we've added those categories in, you'll see that we can go to our class categories, and then we can either put this into grammar or math. So we can tag that as a math one. Now on the right-hand side here, this is where the teacher now can put a lot of other things. So the first thing you'll notice here is we can type a comment and say, this is a great idea for a tattoo. And we can add that in there, and now you've got that portfolio feedback going to Andy. But notice, I'm the one who posted that. It wasn't Andy. Okay, so in the Andy Bernard's thoughts, if you type something in there, it will show up that Andy was the one who put that in. If you type up here, that's where the teacher will actually show the feedback. Okay, and you can put in as much feedback as you want. Great job, whatever you want to put inside there. And you can keep adding that in. If you don't like that, you think that's too general, you can either edit the feedback or just delete the feedback altogether. And that's fine there. Now you can also notice add rubrics or add expectations. So if you have a rubric inside here that you want to add, I'm actually going to select a rubric that I think has expectations. So I can add that rubric right inside there, and I can use that to assess Andy's work. So if I now open up that rubric, you can see I can score that in. I can add feedback if I wanted. But remember, this one already has learning goals attached to it. So this is going to tie in level 3s to learning skill 1 and 2. This is going to tie in a level 2 to the curriculum expectation 2DC1. And this one similarly 2DC3. You can also just add individual expectations. So if you don't want to use a rubric on this, you can just go in, add an expectation that you know that this hits. Okay, 2DC1, and I'll save that. Then I can level it based on that. Great, he got a level 4 on that. You can add in multiple expectations, so it doesn't just have to be those ones. All right, let's do 2DD33, save that, and he got a level 3 on that one. Okay, so this is great in terms of using the expectations, but notice there's no numerical grade that's associated unless you're using a rubric that has numerical values, and we've covered rubrics in a past topic. Okay, so that's how you can use the portfolio tool really well, because you can give feedback right here. You can use rubrics that either have or don't have points, but do have curriculum expectations or don't, depending on the rubric you've created. Or if you don't like using the rubrics inside here, you can just use expectations and attach those and give them the levels. Now then, there is also an option for teacher-only notes. So this is only something that teachers are going to be able to see, and that's teachers within your course. So no other teacher is going to be able to see this note. So if you write something in here that says, I need to follow up with Andy about this, right? Add that in. Now you can see that. Okay. The other piece to this is if and when we get Brightspace for Parents up and running, then you'll be able to actually just quickly share that with parents. And now parents would be able to see that when they open up the portfolio of their child. Okay, so it's a great, quick and easy way to give feedback and share that out. Okay, now you'll notice here, once I've done all those things, look how this feedback shows up now. Notice it says it's categorized, it has feedback provided, and it's now been shared with parents or guardians. Now we'll go into Pam because I think Pam has already put some in as well. So notice Pam already has a couple things in there too. She's got an image of her art show and her picture of the office. So if we go inside here, we can see similar things. This one has some, again, a rubric that's been added. This rubric did not have curriculum expectations, but it has a grade associated with it. And then it had expectations added in with a little bit of feedback up top. Okay, so one very useful thing to notice now is when we go into the expectations progress page, Andy and Pam should now have those curriculum expectations as assessed. So let's go take a look at that. We'll go to the class progress in the course, and we'll select Pam here first. And we can see that there's a bunch of expectations that are available for her. We can actually see, okay, look at these expectations were assessed, those expectations were assessed, and you can see the levels based on the corresponding values. Let's go to the next student here, which should be Andy, and we'll now see that there should be some expectations. Notice that this is not assessed, meaning hasn't been assessed, but it has been assessed for other students probably. And here, okay, so this 2DC1, Look at that, level 4, and the 2DD3 level 3. So let's go in here and look. Notice here, when we open that up, that's showing that that's from the Nard Pup tattoo in the portfolio. So that's exactly what we just put in there. And because we leveled it inside the portfolio, it now shows up inside here as well. Okay, so extremely useful stuff here. Again, notice this is also showing the Nard Pup tattoo from that because we added in 2 different curriculum expectations. Okay, so again, great use of the portfolio. I absolutely love this tool. The only additional thing that I feel like I'd love to show is how it can be used from the app. But I'll probably just link a different video below to show how that can be used. Because it is quick and easy for students to do, but depending on the types of devices you're using, if you're in a classroom, yeah, you might have some shared devices, but if you have a personal device, it's always just easier to get students to download it on their own. It doesn't take up a ton of space, but what you can do on it is you can actually record videos from the device or from, again, Google Drive or Office 365, okay? So that is essentially, setting the tone for where we can go for Mastery View. I do love looking at these curriculum expectations being tracked this way, where again, you go into the student and then now you can see the expectations inside here. Notice this is actually going to give you a quick summary of everything about that student, and there's a ton of information you can access from there. But the expectation tracking is just very useful. You can see, you'll be able to see the most recent times that curriculum expectation has been assessed. You'll be able to open that specific expectation up and see when it was assessed and on what. So that was on the Untitled 2 assignment, you can see there. And the level 3 on the art show, that's from the portfolio. And this is actually going to bring us into the idea of looking at Mastery View in the grades. I think it's a great tool that you can use. Doesn't have to be used with curriculum expectations either. I guess I should say that too. So when you're looking in the portfolio, if you just have an artifact that someone wants to submit in there, you actually don't have to load in a rubric or expectations. Like this one right here, you could just say, oh, this is great. I'm just going to provide you feedback on this, right? Here's your feedback. And maybe you can categorize it just so that they have it. So this one we'll put in as grammar. Okay. You don't have to add expectations or a rubric at all. You can just have this as as something that's saving, the portfolio of student work, and that's totally fine, right? If you want to start using this to assess, then you can add in the rubric or add in the expectations, and from there kind of move forward. What you can't do inside here is just add a random grade item like, oh, I'm going to make this out of 10. If you're going to do that, you want to make sure that that's done in assignments or somewhere else in a grade item, like in the actual grades tool. But without kind of creating that in here, you can kind of do that with rubrics, but that's not going to create a grade item in the grade book, which is almost what you want, because if I'm just having kids submit to a portfolio, I don't want to have the same grade item for everyone. But what is very unique about this is that I can then add certain expectations to some students' artifacts or evidence and not to others. And that's okay, right? Because depending on what they've done, it might be demonstrating a degree of understanding or a degree of mastery in that curriculum expectation. So that's where we're going to end this session today. It's all about portfolio. If you're not using it, I would strongly suggest using it, because it is a great way of students taking ownership of their own work, spotlighting it, and being able to then go in and assess uniquely different tasks on students. This is a way to provide differentiated assessment for students rather than having the exact same assignment, the exact same work, the exact same expectations on them like that. Okay. So again, this is where we're going to end. I know I keep saying that, but that's where we're going to end this session. I'm thankful if you did get a chance to watch this, and know that our next session, we are going to be working on Mastery View. So there's a great way of tracking expectations in a different way that shows it for the entire class rather than just one student at a time. Okay, so tune in then. And yeah, again, we're thankful that you're able to be here for this assessment PD series. Take care, everyone.